You're listening to Pop This, the podcast where two women talk about everything pop culture. Here are your hosts, Lisa Christiansen and Andrea Warner.
So I was listening to Mark Maron's podcast the other day, and sometimes I'm not so keen to listen to his episodes where he interviews women. Has anyone discovered this?
I will second that motion.
And yet I also hate it when he interviews men, so I don't know what to do.
Yeah. Some men, it's a challenge. But he did have as a guest Pamela DeBar.
Oh, yeah.
Who is well known as one of the original
she's
groupies.
With the Band?
With the
Band,
Band,
I'm
yes.
With the Band is her book. Mm-hmm. And so he was, I don't know what the hook was, or just that he met her and wanted to have her on the podcast. I'm not entirely sure. Or she's got a new memoir or something.
He likes to sort of associate himself with rock and roll.
Yeah. So she was on, and I think that my impression of her, we all right away knew I'm with the band and know about her. And I've always kind of, for lack of a better expression, sort of a joke, right? This groupie just kind of telling her rock stories. Yeah. And I hadn't really spent a lot of time thinking about it at all. And I just really hadn't. And then listening to her, it suddenly, I got so sad when she said that some of these old friends of hers don't talk to her anymore, like Robert Plant, because they're dating young girls.
Oh.
Uh-huh. Yeah.
And these young girls don't want to be reminded that your boyfriend's 75. Like, it's pretty easy to look them up on Wikipedia and find out that they are not 25 or 30. Mm-hmm. And how hurt she was.
Yeah.
That she doesn't care what they do with their lives. Obviously,
I gotta figure that the dude doesn't want to be reminded he's 70 as much.
She said up until a few years ago she was
to.
still speaking to them. To one of them, or but now it's not cool to know her anymore or anything. And so because she is such a lovely person and such a good person, she was like more sad than angry about this development. But I thought it was really interesting to hear her in I just felt like new ears about the way she talked about her life and how he was, kind of trying to corner her into, like, you must have really liked a lot of sex. And she was like, no, I
liked music.
And no, I loved them.
Yeah.
I wanted boyfriends.
Well, and that's the thing. Like, I wouldn't say that I've ever thought of her as a joke, and perhaps it's like, and I think it's
maybe a joke's too strong, but I didn't take her really seriously, and I didn't really. I just sort of knew there was that kind of groupie, and I thought of Almost Famous, and I just sort of thought of her in that way.
But it's also because, like, that's sort of like, that's the patriarchy, right?
No, that's what I'm saying.
And that's how we're sort of like internalizing that stuff.
Like what she saw wasn't as valuable.
Yeah. And I really, like, there's this whole group of super cool former groupies who I've met. Well, a lot of them have released like books and stuff, and that some of them I've met through PopCon, in the conference that I go to every year in Seattle, and talking about like their experiences and really like having their because they were basically like often first person experience, lived experience witnesses of the rock and roll scene from like a female perspective that so rarely ever had any kind of like account, right? So they're kind of like the original archivists in a lot of ways.
Yeah.
And I've seen them over the last like 10 or so years, 15 maybe, like really come into their own and getting that like, and not getting necessarily the appreciation from the men that they had considered their friends and their boyfriends and stuff like that.
Yeah.
But building a community around themselves of like, sort of this like post feminist critique of, what they did to build community together and survive like the rock and roll industry.
Yeah, I mean, and she talked a lot about how the slut shaming she went through with like
Oprah's
and Phil Donahue was in the 80s and different talk show hosts like that, and how it depressed her, but she didn't care. It didn't really change who she was.
Yeah.
But I just felt like it was nice to hear her story in this time, like you said, that where we're looking at, as you said, like, why did I think that?
Yeah, and like just examining it through fresh eyes.
And just to listen to her talk about in such a great way. Like she had a great time, and she says that like it was fun.
Her book I thought was in no way salacious.
Yeah.
It was romantic in that, like, you could just tell that she did love and was having this time of her life.
Yeah, and I felt really great listening to her, just going and feeling for myself, going, I'm really happy for you. Like, this was great. I don't think I know I went through a time where I probably just thought, oh, groupie, that's, basically some people would talk about them like parasites, right? You're just living off of someone famous and that's all you are. But it wasn't. And when she was really, because you've read the book and I haven't, just that, that she was this companion that helped a lot of their ego, because she mentioned that Jimmy Page was like struggling, like, what's my identity, who I am. She's like, you get out there and you play a good show, and he would.
Oh my God, there's so many situations like where, and I think we've we've had like a lot of sort of reckoning of like that, the myth of the male genius kind of thing, and like how many women or just other partners, like silent partners, who like really sort of like are involved in supporting and creating and contributing
shopping with them.
Oh my God, just like talking to them, like writing for them, like
yes.
Like the number of wives and companions and partners who are actually sort of responsible for, like doing the writing and the research and the typing of like like really famous manuscripts and like really famous research like, oh my God.
Yeah.
I was talking today with a comedian friend, and he is someone who he will make note of any famous comedian and he will never forget if he finds out that they come from money.
Yes.
They come from family money, and that's something that he can't let go of. And I shared that for me, I have a Rolodex in my head of everyone I know who has risen to success, who at one time was supported by a wife or girlfriend, which is an alarming number of dudes in comedy and the arts in general. And I'll never forget it, and I will never not resent it. And it will be an asterisk on the record forever of like, oh, sure.
Yeah.
Okay. That's basically performance enhancing drugs as far as I'm concerned. Like, you'll never be a Hall of Famer.
Yeah,
because
exactly.
You did it.
Yeah.
Yeah, and I think this is, and I'm going to second your thoughts there. And I think listening to her really explain her actual role in this world, really, and I was happy just to be listening to her. And I think there was even a tiny bit of reckoning from Mr. Marin there. Not a lot, but enough that he sounded a bit like, oh, I don't know if I'd ever quite thought of it in quite that way. Like, he was
so many things he's never thought of in quite that way.
Yeah.
I say that as someone who does enjoy aspects of him quite a bit.
Yeah.
I will literally never forget, and I'm sure I've talked about this before, listening to the interview with him and Amy Poehler, like way back in the day, where she was remembering the way he treated the improv people and her friends, and basically like, these silly little like improv people, and she just called him out for it in the middle of their interview and was like, this is your problem, and he was not, he sort of took it, but he wasn't great about it, and he is still unlearning all of his stuff 10 years later on the same podcast.
Yeah, he sure had a hard time with Chelsea Handler, too. It was not good. And but the weird thing was, he sort of came in guns blazing, like, we don't get on. And she was, I don't know what you're talking about. Like,
right.
Like, I don't know what sort of myth you've created in my head. I'm this same person with everyone. Like, this isn't something I'm just giving to you.
Also, I love the idea that he's like, Chelsea Handler thinks about me.
Exactly. But and this is pre, her coming to this new Chelsea Handler role. So probably things were a little bit more, a little harder. But geez, buddy, you're two comedians getting together. This should not be so complicated for you.
I think he likes to make it a little complicated.
Yeah, he does. And like you said, if you make yourself the victim of something, it becomes about you, as opposed to like, oh, isn't she a guest on your podcast here? Isn't that what we're doing? But
I think unless you're like arriving as Barack Obama, you are someone who potentially has done him wrong.
Yes, exactly. But anyway, Pamela DeBar,
Great.
very happy to hear your stories, and sorry that the dude thing has happened, because
It sucks.
unforgivable.
Yeah, it sucks. It's a weird segue, but not altogether unrelated, because I feel like a lot of the movie that we're going to talk about definitely has elements of slut shaming and taking women not very seriously, but also taking women very seriously.
Yeah.
I think that wraps a lot of the plot in this. Yes. There's a lot. But yeah.
I'm Andrea Warner.
I'm Lisa Christiansen.
And you're listening to Pop This. We're so excited to have a returning guest, Katie Ellen Humphries.
Yay! Returning. Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
So excited. We last had you with us for the Gilmore Girls revival.
Yes, a conversation I still think about.
In what way?
I do too.
Just a lot of the aspects of it, and I just, I'm always wondering about Lorelai and the gals. So.
Yeah.
And I still have not rewatched it since then
Oh,
because
no,
I
nor
cannot
I.
bring myself to.
Sometimes I do think about it and I feel sad.
No, I think about it. I feel sad. I
Yeah.
think about it and I want to rewatch it again, but I think about it and I'm like, you know what? I need to save this for yet another 2 years from now.
Yeah.
I think that's probably a good ballpark.
I think
yeah.
I just need more time to
More
work.
time.
More time
Get
to
back
work.
to me in 15 years,
I
and I may have digested it by
I
then.
just need more time for forgiveness.
Yes.
I'm going to read Katie Ellen Humphries' bio.
Oh, boy.
Katie Ellen Humphries is a stand-up comedian, writer, and sketch performer who currently splits her time between Vancouver and New York. She is a founding member of The Lady Show and veteran of award-winning comedy cabaret Atomic Vaudeville. Katie Ellen is a regular on CBC Radio's The Debaters, where she has worked as a writer and associate producer. She's also a 3-time Canadian national champion for the 5-kilometer open water swim.
Really?
Ooh.
I didn't know that.
Yeah, it's true.
Wow.
I know, right?
Wow. Do you still swim?
Never.
Oh,
Nope.
that's fair.
I would say there's not a lot of equipment in swimming, so there's nothing that really hung up the old goggles. I don't know.
No more bathing caps for me or green hair.
Yeah.
I used to swim
Right.
competitively. And
And you got
did
that
swimming
fair hair.
lessons. Yeah, the green hair was quite a thing.
Oh, you guys, competitive swimming podcast. You should start one. Not now, but
Ooh.
just start one in the future.
It's not a very social sport,
I was
though,
about to say,
either.
that sounds dull.
Yeah, it's really, really dull. Even training is just, okay,
Oh, so boring.
just do your IMs there and we'll see you later.
Yeah.
Cool. Okay, well, I mean, I don't know anything. I only
The
got-
most exciting thing that can happen when you're training in a pool is like, what is that, a Band-Aid? Twist.
Ew, I know. I've done, ugh.
Yeah?
Yeah, that's my nightmare. Also, human feces in the pool.
I have not
Sure.
crossed that, but
Not-
I understand. I've seen Caddyshack, so.
Yeah, not great, not great. Today we are doing Drop Dead Gorgeous. It's the 20th anniversary of this film. I had somehow never seen it.
Wow.
Right? It's shocking. Shocking.
Oh, that's very exciting.
So shocking.
Same.
Yeah, you had never seen it
Wow.
either. Oh my god. So
I'm
this is great.
sorry,
No,
but I
nothing.
did watch it for this.
Yeah, nothing to be sorry about.
So I'm going to read the background, and then
Okay.
Lisa, do you want to do the synopsis? Drop Dead Gorgeous is a 1999 American black comedy film directed by Michael Patrick Jan? Who knows? But he does.
probably does.
He probably does. And starring Kirsten Dunst, Ellen Barkin, Brittany Murphy, Allison Janney, Denise Richards, Kirstie Alley, and Amy Adams in her film debut. What a cast, I have to say.
I just quickly just didn't read that Amy Adams was in it, but I didn't think she could be in this, and I kept saying, "Gosh, that looks so much and sounds like Amy Adams." Till I looked it up.
So much.
So that's her.
Shot in a mockumentary format, it follows the contestants in a beauty pageant called the Sarah Rose Cosmetics Mount Rose American Teen Princess Pageant, held in the small fictional town of Mount Rose, Minnesota. in which various contestants die in suspicious ways.
Synopsis. The movie centers on a lopsided rivalry between Amber Atkins, a working-class sweetheart with corn silk hair and an after-school job doing makeup on embalmed corpses, and Becky, a stone-cold rich girl who carries her breath. Did you write this?
I did not.
Oh, okay, because stone-cold rich girl who carries her breasts around like a warning and looks at the camera as if she wants to leave it penniless in a divorce. Wow.
Honestly, it's a very apt description. And
That is
it's
quite the synopsis.
It's Gia Tolentino. So.
Oh, wow. Yeah, okay. Amber has been raised in a trailer park by her mother, Annette, a nicotine-crazed beautician. Oh, that has been a dream of mine, to become a nicotine-crazed beautician.
Honestly, sounds great.
Yeah, Becky's mother, Gladys, is a homicidal queen bee who racks up a body count in her quest to secure her daughter the Mount Rose American teen princess crown.
Spoiler, if you didn't
Wow.
know, it's the mom. It's the rich
You said
mom.
that, yeah.
It's the rich mom.
Yeah.
Gia Tolentino, that's her essay from The New Yorker. She does a beautiful tribute to it. She says it's one of her favorite movies, or her favorite movie of all time.
All time.
Wow.
I believe so.
That description of carrying her breasts around is so apt.
Like a warning.
It's so perfect.
Yes.
It's so perfect. But I have to say, I found Denise Richards the weakest performance in this whole film. I mean, breasts fine, but I just
Yeah.
I did not find her performance like she's fine,
Yes.
but everybody else is so good in my mind.
Yes, I don't find her notably bad, but there are some performances in this film that I think are outstanding.
Like Brittany Murphy does so
Brittany
much with so
Murphy.
little.
Murphy. It makes me sad.
I know, me too.
So sad.
I know.
Honestly, I really loved her in Clueless.
Oh, she's-
too. I mean,
she's
she
so
was
great.
Like, probably like one of the best things in Clueless.
Yeah,
She has some acting choices in this movie that are so smart
Yeah.
and interesting and hard to pull off. That
Yes.
like the nervous laugh.
Oh my God, it's
Yeah.
so good.
Yeah. No, I thought she just.
I loved.
I
Anyway.
just love listening to her talk.
yes.
Yeah.
I don't know how she's going to say something, and
Yeah.
it makes you just like lean in.
Yeah.
Yeah.
No, she's so good in this. Anyway, so Katie Ellen, you have seen this before,
Yes.
And
20 years ago.
20 years ago,
originally.
and now you've watched it again. How what's your feeling about it?
Well, one thing that I found interesting about this is that until the 20-year reunion, or no, it's not a reunion. What is
20th
it?
anniversary?
20th anniversary, I did not realize that this was a panned movie critically.
Yeah.
I didn't
Aw,
know that
that's
at
so
all.
great.
Yeah, like it's
Yeah.
a cult favorite, but
Yeah.
you thought it was just like a winner from the beginning.
Well, there's two things. I don't read movie reviews, and I'm not really a film person in that way. So none of that criticism ever entered my stratosphere. And I loved this movie. And I watched it with my older brother, who also loved it fiercely. And I, until this year, also didn't realize that that the lead, Kirsten Dunst, is also wildly underrated, because in my mind she was in all the movies that I, of this era when I was growing up. She was a huge movie star.
Yeah.
And she was in all these movies that I loved. And I was like, obviously this is a celebrated actress that everybody loves.
But she is.
I mean, she is ultimately,
Yes,
but
she really hasn't gotten her due.
she was
Yeah.
quite like undersung overall. Like,
I guess I always feel of her as like perfect. But
But that's the thing. Like
Yeah.
we all love her, but like,
Yeah.
but she can't open a film, and she doesn't get that sort of credit that she sort of deserves.
So until this year, until the anniversary, when people were talking about how wildly panned this film was, this is the first I'm hearing of it. Because in my life, it was a
That's so
celebrated
great.
movie.
That's like you were like hermetically sealed or
Yes.
something. Someone just threw down a bunch of movies.
My brother and I would talk about this movie and we'd quote it. It was a celebrated film in my house.
What did you love most about it?
That's a great question. I think it's an interesting movie to experience as a Canadian, because rewatching it, I understand a little bit more that it's sort of specifically Minnesotan. But as a kid from Canada, I was just like, oh, this is a satire about America. Like, it's funny.
Yeah,
They're
yeah.
kind of making fun of Americans in general, which is fun as an outsider.
Of course,
Yeah.
So one of the running jokes that stuck with me the most deeply was the former winner of the pageant
Yeah.
who is hospitalized for anorexia
Yeah.
throughout the movie, and the asides to her, and in particular the line of, a week before the pageant, I'm practicing my talent, I was running my line or whatever.
400 calories.
Yeah, I'm running 18 miles a day, all on 400 calories. I was ready.
Yeah, I know. It's because beauty pageants are so evil on so many levels. And this really captures that.
I think also, I mean, we've talked about the swimming, and it's a wildly different world in terms of like aesthetics is not part of it. But I was a very driven teenager, and I did really dangerous things, and I pushed myself in weird ways the way that these girls do, in a consuming way, and measured all of my worth based on performance.
Yeah.
And had nothing. It was and so I think particularly that character hit really deep, and I really related. I was like, yeah, that's a thing. That's what you do when you're a kid. You do dumb, all-consuming stuff, but also you have just the way she says, "I was ready." So beautiful. And so funny.
Yeah, she's really funny. Like, I mean, I know anorexia probably not funny. I get that. But, like, her character, particularly when it comes to a beauty pageant, particularly when it comes to the ways in which they sort of position her and use her, and everyone is just sort of like, this is an acceptable reality for last year's winner. Mm-hmm. That she is hospitalized and has an oxygen tank. Ooh, so dark.
Yeah.
So
and her
dark.
hair's falling out.
And her hair, well, because that's a common. Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
But I just but the actor who plays her, I can't remember what her name is, but I've seen her in lots of other stuff, and she's really good and quite underrated. Yeah.
Because I just, there's no callousness in any of this humor, which even though to just say these things, oh, they have this, anorexia shows her hair falling out, that sounds really gross and tacky, but I didn't take any of the jokes in the movie that way, except for the hard R word that gets thrown around a lot, and that character.
That does not age well.
No.
There are aspects.
Or the pedophile coach?
That one I took fine.
But because of all the pedophile coaches you've known, that's it's. I mean, one of the
judge.
Yeah. The hard R.
They really love that word in this movie too.
That has not aged well.
Like,
yeah.
Really.
Well, particularly because of Will Sasso's character and what he's doing with that. Like, that's.
Yes.
There's another name we forgot. Will Sasso.
Yeah. I mean, you can't name them all. Like, it's,
the 90s. That word was very popular.
Yes.
Yeah.
For sure.
Yeah.
We were just starting to drop hard F, and we replaced it pretty steadily.
Yeah,
Mm-hmm.
yeah. It's
somebody has to take this.
I guess.
Yeah.
So we'll just
We have to continue oppressing someone.
Yes. Exactly.
Lisa, your thoughts?
I did not enjoy this. I'm sorry.
That's
totally
very
after
loud.
the two of you were just so overwhelmed and thrilled and I don't know, maybe it's my problem with and this is probably where you had a lovely place to come in. For me, mockumentary is always associated with Christopher Guest. Like it just is, with Spinal Tap and with Best in Show or
Mighty
Wind or those kinds of
Waiting
stories.
for Guffman, yeah.
Waiting for Guffman. And I suppose my problem was I was waiting for a kind of a quirky charm.
You mean you did not find Kirsten Dunst's character tap dancing around the corpses as she does makeup on them a quirky charm?
I did not. And it wasn't even that so much, because that just in my mind just felt overplayed.
Oh, okay.
Like it just, how bleak is this girl's life? Wait, we've got something more for you. Uh-huh. She decorates corpses. Like it just, plus I didn't even, this is dumb. But anyway, I'm thinking, is that the job a high school student could get? Like, I don't know. I thought there'd be rules.
It's a small town, man.
Again, that's also from being a Canadian. I was going
to say, it's like that. I mean, oftentimes, funeral parlors are family businesses. So maybe an outside teenager might be unlikely, but I think it's very common for teenagers to do that job.
Is it?
Yeah.
Oh, well, I did not know.
It makes me want to be cremated. That's all I'm going to have to say.
Yeah, and
I
she
love a makeover.
I love a makeover scene as well.
Oh.
That's my.
and she seemed particularly okay with this job, and also covering up the bullet hole of a friend from school who had recently been asking if she wanted to go out. So it was very, I don't know, I felt like it was just kind of inconsistent. I feel like honestly, I watch enough pageant shows that are real, that are funnier than this.
Oh.
Like, to me, reality, when you're like, I cannot, like, watching, what is his name from RuPaul, the winner? He has that Texas reality, his show, he moved back to Texas and he's running the dance school.
Oh, okay.
I can't remember his name.
I don't remember either, sorry.
And I feel bad because he has this. Anyway, he won RuPaul's Drag Race. He's moved back to a small town in Texas where he runs this dance school, a lot of the pageant. It is so much weirder.
Yeah.
And serious. And the issues he has to deal with. And I felt like watching Dumpling, which we watched. Dumpling,
Yep.
about just the issues around small towns and beauty competitions. They're less, I don't know, I didn't find it, I think they're awful, but also at the same time, like even one of the girls alludes to it, that you're living in a small town, there's nothing really much else to do. So it just seemed like something you would just do. It didn't seem like, anyway, I just felt the movie was cruel for no reason and overplayed. I like Allison Janney,
Yep.
and Ellen Barkin just felt like they were really chewing scenes, which I guess is fun.
Oh,
It got her an Oscar then last year.
I love
Like that's 100%.
But it's
the same character.
Yeah, no, it is with that accent and then the hair and smoking and I don't know.
I loved those two though. I have to say when she gets out of that fire and her hand is just a melted monstrosity with the beer can, and she continues to try and drink out of it. And then when she's wheeled to the hospital and I know this is like a dumb gag, but she has that like black furry purse in between her legs as if it's a merkin. I laughed real hard. I know. I don't know. Maybe I'm like secretly like 10, but I laughed so hard.
You know, I honestly, this is a terrible thing to say. I'm trying to even remember a scene that made me laugh.
Oh, wow.
Yeah. I don't know. It just felt like it was the problem I had when we did Heathers.
I was just going to say, you hated Heathers. And this is very much in the vein of like that sort of like black comedy.
And so maybe I'm not.
I think maybe it's not your jam.
I'm just not as.
I think there's very silly moments that stuck with me. So for 20 years, I have just laughed to myself about the theme, her favorite theme being "A Mare I Can." I remember my favorite theme. A Mare I Can.
Yeah.
And I think about it all the time. And anytime I'm in America, I'm like,
A Mare I Can.
You got it.
Yeah.
But I bet if you went, though, there are real people like that. So that's what the and then, plus, I didn't feel like the mockumentary was done as well as it could. Like, it didn't feel like interviews, or like, why are they there? There were some times where they remembered to do it, like when the cameramen were kicked out of the trailer. And then Allison, she's like, come back. Like, him sort of pulls them back. But I felt like there wasn't enough of that sort of relationship going on. And so I always got pulled out of the mockumentary feel and just thought I was watching a regular teen movie.
Well, I felt at the end we were seeing actually what had been both the mockumentary about the pageant, and then literally they had been shooting an episode of Cops, and that it came together.
Yeah.
They decided to fuse the footage together.
When she takes over to become the journalist, you mean?
In a sort of special... A special, like, 2-hour Friday night production. Cops meets pageant town and, like, you know, this big sort of expose. Like, it felt like it sort of came together like that for me at the end.
Here's what I'll say. I was not surprised to find out it was badly reviewed. That's what I...
Sure, yeah.
Because I didn't look at the reviews first. And I do love reading movie reviews, probably too much. Like Metacritic, how did this balance out here? I go through all of them. So I read a lot. And I think what I noticed, too, that I think for a lot of people now, like, because it's come out again, like we didn't say that, right? It's now available for streaming, and it's... So it spent a long time that no one could find it, right? And now people are watching it again. And so I feel like there's some thinking and maybe some nostalgia. It sounds like you genuinely liked it the first time too.
I definitely did, but for sure it is tied to a period of time.
Yeah.
So there's absolutely a nostalgic connection.
And part of me was kind of like, I can't believe this is Amy Adams. I can't believe this is Kirsten Dunst. I can't believe that's Ellen Barkin. Like, I was enjoying it for that and Kirstie Alley. But I feel like I've just watched a lot of the beauty queen stuff, and I don't want to make fun of it as much as I used to, because I feel like for some people it's all there is, and it's kind of sad. And at the same time, I enjoy watching RuPaul's show and watching that idea that I'm going to create something different from me. I'm going to become this different person, and I'm going to get out of this damn town, which they do. So I felt like I couldn't quite get there. Oh, it's not like I'm talking about an orgasm. Sorry. I mean,
Maybe you're nervous.
just needed to stop thinking so hard, is what you're saying, right? Yeah.
I mean, I have to say, like, I think the moment that I was hooked was from, and again, it's kind of like one of those lines where you're just like, oh boy, we are in it for a ride. She's skinny, Amber, not deaf. And I just, like, I really did love a lot of the, again, a lot of that sort of like bleak, dark, kind of like, and occasionally juvenile humor. Like I loved it when she started tap dancing. I like the sort of absurdity of it, and because to me, and I like comedies that do dabble in death and mayhem, and like there's someone sort of like an evil homicidal weirdo sort of like taking out people who are in the way of this crown that is so meaningless and yet so meaningful. Like, just the idea that there is this sort of small town where this is like, this $75 scholarship really could be a stepping stone for Amber. Mm-hmm. And so I don't like, and I think that there's something to be said about like it sort of taking on the classism of like the of Kirsten Dunst's of Amber versus Becky as well. It's just like, she's already rich, she has every opportunity afforded to her, but they still feel entitled to this particular like triumph because of, you know, their wealth. And so, I mean, obviously like the extreme sort of like, Amber's such a good person and Becky's such a sort of banal breasticle. Like, I mean, these are right. These are not like super, non-stereotyped characters, but or archetypical characters. But like, I find that in movies like this, like that do that mockumentary thing, that's actually really effective as like a tool for having a lot of sort of like jokes that go between being like incredibly kind of like silly to like very meta to like multi-layered. Mm-hmm. That was where I was at.
Wow. Okay.
I know.
That's a lot.
I know.
You reached it.
I also felt, and certainly there was some stuff that was played. It's, you mentioned that her high school crush shows up in the morgue and she's got to do it like on the day even that he'd asked her out, and that she's pretty chill about that, and that is wild. But I did think that it was a bit of a nod to, in small towns, young people die at a higher rate.
Well, they said
like,
it's busy hunting season.
They make that joke, hunting season. Yeah. And I didn't grow up in a town where it would be hunting season, but I did grow up in the kind of small town where around grad,
like Footloose,
there's going to be drunk driving incidences, and kids are, it's a numbers that will happen, and people do sort of react. That, I mean, obviously, maybe not the people closest to them, but in the town, that's a general sort of understanding. That's a small town thing, because kids are dumb and kids do dumb stuff.
Yeah. Well, except for he was murdered by the mom, right?
Yeah.
Yeah. Did we see that scene, or did I just put that together? Because she was killing everybody, and I guess her daughter was sad.
And he took the bullet between the eyes.
Yes, yeah, exactly.
Do you tend, like Katie Ellen, do you tend to sort of like the sort of like absurdity and the sort of like black humor of this kind of like sadistic film?
I definitely do. And I, again, because I watch it at a time, and I have no idea how, if I came in fresh in 2019 and was watching it, because it tone-wise reminds me of But I'm a Cheerleader.
Yeah, which we haven't done yet, but I would like us to
Mm-hmm.
do at some point. But again,
Well, I'm not like a delicate flower. I can watch
No.
things.
I just maybe, but I'm a Cheerleader might be like a little bit extra sophistication over like this.
Yeah.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
But I just, for some, and maybe I've just tied them sort of time-wise in my mind, but they have a certain similarity tone-wise.
Yeah. I think of that film Saved as well.
I was just thinking about Saved. Yes.
That's the religious one.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Mandy Moore
Yeah.
and
So good.
It's pretty great too. Like
But have you seen A Walk to Remember? Because with Mandy Moore. It's really good too.
I have not actually ever seen that, and
Really?
I've heard it's
Have you seen it?
great.
Not in its entirety.
Oh.
It's on television a
I
lot,
don't
so
know
I've
why
definitely
I've seen all
caught
of it.
probably
That's,
20 minutes total.
Well, you're president of the Mandy Moore fan club in Vancouver, right?
I mean, I have to see all of her work.
Of course, 100%. Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Is there a favorite character of yours that really held up for you in the 20-year gap between when you first saw it and when you saw it again?
The Brittany Murphy character was very huge for me.
So good.
And she's not a favorite character, but another favorite moment from the movie is I really love the opening dance number of the pageant when each girl comes out with a
Mount Rushmore,
an American monument
Yeah.
costume, and they say what makes me proud to be an American, and then there's the one gal who just has the giant ball of twine, and she's like, my uncle's ball of. I misunderstood the assignment.
Yeah.
And that stuck with me for 20 years, for sure.
Well, I really like a talent competition. Okay, wait. I just have to say, Lisa, when Becky brings in Jesus on a cross to waltz with him, that didn't make you laugh?
Yeah, ish. But again, I had gone past like thinking things were silly, and I just thought they were overdone. Like,
okay.
Like they sat in a writing room and went, "What is the weirdest, dumbest like thing that probably won't make any sense at all? Let's do this." Like that. Sometimes I felt like that.
Well, I thought it made a lot of sense because again, this sort of like the hypocrisy of being like this sort of like pious Jesus loving family that's actually like quite diabolical on many levels.
Beauty
like,
pageants.
Well, the dad has his furniture store and he's a slime bucket.
Yeah.
And the mom is just like all she cares about is making sure that her daughter wins.
Yeah.
And that obviously she's like pretending to love Jesus but is killing a bunch of teenagers.
Yeah.
To make sure her daughter gets what she wants and gets into that prime
Like
position.
Serial Mom.
Like Serial, yes, Serial Mom. There's an aspect of Serial Mom to this as well. And so it's when she. This is actually maybe my favorite Denise Richards moment in the whole movie is when she's doing that terrible song and she's performing this sort of like slightly sexed up version of oh my god, whatever the song is, I can't remember. And then she pulls out Jesus on a cross, literally, and waltzes with him. I honestly, I just about died. Like, I thought that was maybe one of the funniest things I'd ever seen. And I say this as a fresh 40-year-old watching this film. I do not have.
But you also like to waltz with a cross.
Well,
too.
I do, and
That
I
is
really
a thing of yours.
one of my favorite things is to make fun of hypocrisy.
Yeah.
And so there are a lot of different entry points for pleasure for me in this film. Like, because it's just kind of so like one of the things I did not care for though was like 3 endings. This movie has so many endings.
Yeah.
It gets wild at the end.
It's not even that long, but I just like it feels like
the pageant felt very long.
Well, it ends up feeling long, but I think it's because of the
Was it
3
real time?
endings. Yeah, well, it's like it's just so many endings, you know. And I mean, I'm all for like a group sort of like vomit scene, even though I hate looking at vomit on screen. It's just not my thing. I don't like it.
You mean when they all have the seafood? Do you mean at the...
They all have the seafood, and Amber's the one who won't eat anything that carries its house on its back, and which I mean,
it's a very interesting rule.
And of course, Amber just continues to sort of like accidentally fail up because she's beautiful and white and blonde, and this is going to be like sort of her luck in life is, even though she's poor, she will have these like other sort of like privileges.
And then she becomes Veronica Corningstone at the end.
And I mean, that's so, it just, it really just delight. Like, of course, the other poor woman gets shot and she just swoops in and like makes it her own. Like, this is exactly the sort of like absurd, sadistic thing. Or because the screenwriter,
who was very disappointed. I don't know if you read any about how the reception was. She said, this was actually my life. Like, I'm from this place. This is what the beauty pageants meant. So maybe she watched people become who are very resourceful because they had to be.
Yeah.
Like, you have to be quick on your feet in this place, right? Like, this pageant thing's going to come. And at first she was like, I don't know if I want to do it. Her mother's like, oh my gosh, this is it. This is
you have
all
one chance.
we've got. Like, I actually weirdly liked more of those scenes where there was a little bit more of the seriousness or of living in this small town, and not in a boring Kirstie Alley sort of, this is all I've got or whatever.
No.
Just that I felt like there was something about Kirsten Dunst's character that they were saying, like, this is it for you.
Yeah.
Like, you better figure this out. There are very few options for you as this young girl.
Yes.
And her mom was very keen on her tap dancing was going to be the thing. And you're like,
Well, and one of the through lines that I think is done very well is where they keep highlighting past winners. And then, Kirsten Dunst says, a lot of past winners have gone on, or another
Diane
character.
Sawyer became a...
Yes, or the acting girl one says, a lot of people have turned pageants into acting careers, and then they flash it. The pork products woman.
Oh boy, and I work here now. Yeah.
Yeah. And even Kirsten Dunst's mother talking about that when she did the pageant, like there's this sort of that in this town, all of these women, this was a seminal experience for them, and that is what they had.
Yeah.
And they will keep, that's the thing they did, remember the time 20 years ago, 25 years ago, 30 years ago, 40 years ago.
Yeah. And there's something actually really kind of crushing and funny about when they get to the city and they see that the building
because the bankruptcy
has gone bankrupt, the lease sign, and they go like wild.
All of their you know what it made me
all
think
of their
of
dreams
too?
are gone,
because not just the pageant, but that's often how it's presented as weddings for women too, right? This is your one special day.
Yes.
You get a dress, you get all these people looking at you. You just get this one day.
Make sure you get the pictures right.
Yeah.
Yes.
Because you're gonna have to hang on to this forever.
And what I thought I saw at the end there was just like 50 bridezillas jumping out, just like all of what they had in them.
Well, and to be able to like sort of witness that anger, like these are women who have not really been allowed to let themselves feel anger. You have to smile, and you have to, if you're dancing and tapping all the time, even if you're tapping around a morgue, putting makeup on people, you got to keep a smile on your face because that's your performance face. Your game face is on all the time. And so to see them get like that, and they'd all gone through all these different like sort of competitions, they get to the city and every possibility is gone, except Amber kind of just like is, well, back on the bus, and Amber is a very, because she's already seen some stuff. She's seen a lot. She knows
saw the pageant queen blow up. So I mean, that's gonna stick with you, isn't it?
So many things. Oh my God. Honestly, when Denise Richards blew up, I knew it was coming.
Where that movie is like, oh, we're not. This is off to the races. The rest of this is off the rails.
I could not believe there was still 20 minutes left at that point.
Yeah.
It's bananas.
Like, how is this not over?
Yeah.
How does this keep going? And it somehow does.
How else would she become queen?
I mean, it was just wow.
Yeah.
Wow.
Also, I have to say one thing that I felt like they probably didn't need to do the Fargo accents quite so thick. I mean, doesn't Rose come from the same part of town and Golden Girls? And she doesn't sound like that.
Yeah, but eventually, then Kirsten Dunst goes on to be in Fargo and have to pick up that accent again. So
One universe.
can you imagine? Yeah, just one universe, and that's like
Wow.
that's still the same character.
And she ended up marrying Jesse Plemons.
Sure
That is
did.
a girl that knows how to react to the opportunities that come your way.
Yes.
Yeah, no, I think it's a real thing. Gia Tolentino's essay is I mean, it's really great, and everyone should read it, the whole thing. And I'm not gonna like read the whole thing, but I just want to this one quote. The black comedy of Drop Dead Gorgeous is guided by a deranged value system that's particular to the world of teenage girls. But what Drop Dead Gorgeous understands so well is that being a teenage girl is, in fact, deranged and dehumanizing and frequently unsubtle. It certainly felt that way at the turn of the 21st century when visible G-strings and virginity pledges were in vogue simultaneously, and young female pop stars were flagrantly doing exactly what is expected of contestants in a teen beauty pageant, performing desirability while projecting naivete.
Yes.
And I think that that's a beautiful sort of like example of what this film on some level does capture.
But I would also argue that is not, I'm sorry, that's just not new. We watched old movies. That's exactly what all of those women were supposed to be portraying, right? Mm-hmm. Is that that naivete, but at the same time being sexually hungry, but not. You know, I mean, that's kind of a stock and trade for women. I
mean, it's definitely like a stock and trade thing, but I think what she's getting at is like how deranged and dehumanizing it is.
Sure. Oh,
and I think like
100% that.
And I think that that's what she's saying. What she likes so much about Drop Dead Gorgeous is that it speaks to that because it's completely unhinged, and I think that is true. Like
that is true. But you know when I think we all remember when Sandra Bullock does her makeover scene in Miss Congeniality. I mean...
Heck yeah.
Yeah, right? So
I enjoy that movie. It's just a very different spin on it for me.
Yeah.
Well, I was just going to leave it out there just to hang, because that slow motion walk that she does.
For me, almost one of the darkest moments in this wild, dark film where so many people are straight up murdered is still Kirstie Alley's character coming out while she's hosting the pageant and saying... You know, when I won this pageant, my talent was as a seamstress. And I made these culottes. They still fit. Can you believe it? And that stuck with me so deeply. First of all, culottes are hilarious.
They are.
As a garment in general.
They ended up on Seinfeld. So
Brilliant.
Yes.
There's a funny word. It's a funny image.
Yeah.
Yes, absolutely. But then, to just be like,
but is that not really sad?
No, it's so sad, but it hits me very deeply. I also, I mean, my parents celebrated their 50th wedding anniversary 2 years ago, and one of the most talked about events of the party was that my mother can still fit in the wedding dress she wore when she was 19, and she put it on, and everyone oohed and awed, and it was like, she did it, guys. She still has the body of a teenager.
Yeah, that's chilling.
It
yes.
is.
Yeah.
And everybody clapped, and my big joke was like, I am uncomfortable in the pants I put on at the beginning of this party.
Yeah, I know. It's such that particular thing is such a odd, says everything, says nothing. You know, it's...
Yes.
It's... Yeah. But now I just feel sad and disappointed in the world.
I mean, I do all the time, but I like it when it lets me laugh at it, and this movie lets me laugh at it a little bit.
Yeah. Yeah, apparently, what did we read, though, in the original? Kirstie Alley commits suicide in the prison cell. That out.
Dark.
So...
I mean, I prefer her coming back and just shooting a bunch of people. That's great.
I liked that kind of... Again, when it was doing mockumentary well, when they had that weird sort of shot of her inside the prison, sort of making, like, working stuff in there, I like that. Because it made me think of Arrested Development, when
Right.
he gets into prison. He's
Yeah.
got all those people basically working for him. I have this, I've never been to prison.
So you say. No, I'm kidding.
Yeah. But I have this feeling that I wonder what happens to your personality there. Like what gets amplified and what gets
Shrunk.
shrunk.
Yeah. I mean, I did have to visit my aunt frequently.
In prison.
Well, I mean, yes, I would take my cousin to go and see her because it was her mom. And it's not my favorite thing. Like, I have to say, I don't think, like, prison's super...
Well, I don't think Orange is the New Black has done anything to make people think this would be interesting.
No, and it's it's
Yeah.
certainly a different setup in, like, Canada to a certain extent. Like,
Yeah.
women's prisons are, like, sort of much usually nicer than, like, men's prisons. But I mean, there's so many complications around that, and like gender not being a binary, blah blah blah. You know, like there's just it's. But and that was a long time ago. Yeah, I just it's not. I don't. Yeah, I think that there are certainly definitely like sort of if you usually I think if you end up in prison, the thing that got you there, if you are guilty and are rightfully sort of like convicted, as it were, you find other personalities like yours in prison.
Yeah.
And then you just continue to negotiate those personalities. It's very much, I think, like high school.
Yeah.
You are just all stuck in a place where you are sort of like these very exaggerated versions of like normal people.
But did I misread that scene where she definitely seemed to have a bit more swagger?
In prison?
Yeah.
I thought
Kirstie Alley kind of just sauntering up to that large person and passing them something, but she seemed to have a little bit more confidence to her
Well,
walk.
I think she's just in a more. She's like not hiding who she is anymore.
Yeah, that's what I meant.
Right, yeah.
She doesn't have to pretend to be a perfect pageant.
Which I thought was a super. That is a very interesting kind of message to have watched her as this one person all the time, as you're saying. Like, I made these culottes, I still wear them, and then be put in prison in these shapeless outfits, and she's like, I'm home. Like,
Right. Well, and not have to do the like, I don't know, I guess it's just a gift from God.
Yeah.
And be like, it's not a gift from God. It's me. It's all been me.
yeah, exactly.
And I figured maybe she was gonna participate in like the prison beauty pageants.
Ooh,
Yeah.
yes.
No, I could see her definitely getting some stuff going, and
So many things. I can't even believe that we have to sort of ease towards a wrap up. I'm so sorry, but Katie Ellen does Drop Dead Gorgeous pop.
Big time pop.
Yeah,
Nonstop pop.
Me too.
well, it's,
You don't have to.
no, I like caveats because I don't. I mean, it didn't work for me, but I do think it works for other people.
I think it's also 100% fine to be like, I hated this.
Yeah.
It's okay.
Well, but I like to read the room, and everyone's really excited about it, and now I just look like. Weird to be the killjoy in a very dark comedy, isn't it?
No, I feel frequently I am often the person who's like, I hated it.
It really just feels like two sides of the coin. I think we've all experienced the movie and took the same things away from it. And it just feels like and it bummed you out and we are reveling in
that's
yeah.
But
there's
it's not as if we had different reactions. It doesn't feel like to me. It feels very close.
Yeah, I just wasn't laughing, and I felt really sad, and I wanted some Christopher Guest charm, and that's my fault. Not everything can be a Christopher Guest mockumentary.
Well, and there's different types of humor.
And I've seen a lot of mockumentaries now, like from The Office, however many offices there are.
Mm-hmm.
Parks and Rec.
Yeah.
Yeah, all of those, and so maybe also I feel a little bit tired of that structure, and that maybe isn't fair to bring that in either. So, because maybe that was fresh.
In 1999, it certainly felt more fresh, I think. But, like, I also would again, like, I think it bears reasoning. Like, as you mentioned, you don't like Heathers. And it's, again, a sort of sadistic, absurdist, teenagers being murdered kind of thing. That's not really your jam.
It's not.
Which
I feel, when you say it like that, I feel comfortable with that.
Yeah.
Sure, yeah.
Whereas I love teenagers being murdered. That's apparently totally my jam.
Yeah.
So, yeah, it's fine.
That's weird, because I don't think of you that way.
No, and yet you know that it's true.
I do. I do.
And now, Katie Ellen? Yeah, teenagers getting murdered?
It's a bold statement.
Very bold.
Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, the murder doesn't do it for me specifically.
Good to know. If there's any teenagers who want to approach her, I really enjoy your work.
I can't say the murder specifically does it for me, but like I find the humor around their deaths to be good.
I think you're better at remembering the feelings that the other person had with that person dying. And like that sort of teenage feeling where nothing really matters. It's all very...
Well, the universe of this movie is that everything is no one is deeply invested.
Yes.
And there's like there's that sort of, again, that the dehumanizing factor of being a teenager.
Whereas I am the person that feels bad when like the terrible high school jock gets killed, because I'm kind of like, how do we know that, he couldn't have had a turnaround? Something, maybe later on he had some kind of moment where he became a better person. Why are we so... That's me.
Yeah, I'm not giving him a...
No, you're not.
I'm not giving him a long backstory. I'm just taking the movie sort of at what it's telling me, which is that...
Yeah, which is you're better at, and I have expanded the universe into all kinds of, like, moral philosophy, and then it makes me feel bad.
I love both of these approaches. Big time.
We love to leave our episodes on something that we recommend.
Oh, yes.
In pop culture. And Lisa, would you like to go first?
Oh, sure. I had recommended, not that everyone isn't already reading it right now, but Ronan Farrow's Catch and Kill.
Oh, yes.
And my coworker who suggested it to me said I couldn't put it down. She said it was like a thriller. And literally, that's what it reads. It is like a breathless thriller. It's Ronan Farrow's investigation of Weinstein, and he's also working on the Today Show with Matt Lauer. And if you followed that story well, the little things he drops, you know what that means, and you know what's coming. So leaving Matt Lauer's office, and he says, should I shut the door? And he goes, oh, no, I've got that. And pushes that button.
Yeah.
Plus, Ronan Farrow is a great journalist, but also a little campy. A little bit of... some enjoyable asides on hairlines and,
Awesome.
So, but at the same time, it's also very important work, and it is heartbreaking as a woman to read how much of this has been covered up over the decades and years. And so it is almost hard to describe exactly what's going on here, but it's a really great read.
Fantastic. I can't wait. I really enjoyed his episode of Keep It. I thought it
I did too.
Oh my God, so good.
The fact that he has to be approached by a gay man, they're like, your mom's Mia Farrow. And he's like, yeah, I know. It's a lot.
Yeah. Katie Ellen?
If we're talking great reads, I got to big up Alicia Tobin's book, which is just released. I will be hosting, I don't know when this comes up, but I'm hosting her book launch next Wednesday, which is November 20th. And yeah, she has this wonderful memoir book of comedic essays called So You're a Little Sad. And it's great, and she's the best.
She is the best. She was on our podcast. And
I figured.
Yeah, we love her so much.
Mm-hmm.
And the book is great.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I fully support this. I'm going to just a little shout out to old friend of the podcast, as it were. I'm kidding. She's not really a friend of the podcast, but we do follow each other on Twitter. Mm-hmm. Karina Longworth, you must remember this, is back.
Well, she was at the podcast festival.
She was at the podcast festival last year.
Yeah.
She's back with new episodes of You Must Remember This. And she's taken on 6 Degrees of Song of the South, Disney's most racist and vile cartoon ever. And I appreciate that she is digging into this and doing all of this at the same time as Disney Plus is launching, and that they are not putting that in their catalog, because really it should never see the light of day again. And that also she does not care about the fact that her husband is frequently employed by Disney as a director.
Wow,
so
yeah.
I would just go Karina.
I've been really enjoying the fact that she's quite funny on Twitter, and she's had some zingers recently. And as soon as they start taking off, she feels this need to go, hey, everyone, glad you like my writing here. Did you know I make a podcast? And I find that really funny.
I know.
It's so sweet because I know that's important, but Twitter and the rest of the world are very, to me, like having a Twitter game is like very, I like what other things you do, but that's fun.
Yes,
the Twitter thing.
But even that, like that particular thing of if a tweet goes viral, then saying, "Hey, check out my," is also participating. That's also now a Twitter behavior. So you're almost just even making a nod to like SoundCloud rappers or whoever, whatever.
Yeah.
Like you have to if a tweet like. People will have joke versions of it if they have a viral tweet of like, I don't have a SoundCloud, but check out whatever.
I know.
So you're just being extremely online by doing that.
I know. It's
Makes
hilarious.
my heart
It's
hurt.
delightful.
It's, yeah.
Yeah.
Katie Ellen, where should people find you?
Oh, definitely on Twitter. I'm extremely online.
And then once you like your tweet, you've got other work, right?
You can follow me again, I guess. Yeah, check me out on Twitter. I'm at Ms. Katie Ellen, MSKATIEELLEN, and I'm the same on Instagram, but with underscore between Katie and Ellen. And those are the best places to follow in terms of if you want to catch me live. I am a stand-up comedian. I perform around town, and as my bio said, partly truthfully and partly aspirationally in Vancouver and New York. And I will have an album coming out in the new year.
So exciting. So exciting. You can hang out with us on Twitter, on Facebook, on Instagram. You could email us at popthiscollective@gmail.com. And you could rate and review us at 5 stars on iTunes. 5 stars. 5 stars.
Always 5 stars. Like generals. Thanks for joining us again. We're recorded at the Vancouver Public Library. Andrea Gin is our producer. Always a pleasure to have you.
Thank you so much.
Thank you so much. Y'all are such a delight.